With the 55th pick in the NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers selected Bronny James out of USC. Typically, the 55th pick would garner nearly zero attention whatsoever, with the player selected projected to likely play very little, if none at all, as a rookie, with a probable G League assignment expected, and possibly never even making it to realistic minutes at the NBA level. Bronny, of course, is a much different scenario. The narrative surrounding him going into this draft was wild, with many people and publications even bringing up the idea that a team could take Bronny as early as the first round to, quote, hold him hostage, so to speak, and either force the Lakers to either give up real assets to trade for him, or to even motivate LeBron to leave the Lakers and join whatever team took him. Needless to say, this media circus didn't calm down at all the night of the draft, with LeBron and Bronny's agent Rich Paul reportedly calling all the teams who were thinking about drafting Bronny, telling them that he was going to play in Australia if a team other than the Lakers drafted him, or some nonsense like that. That's a lot of fanfare for a player who averaged a whopping 4.2 as a college freshman, but here we are. This combination of mediocre college performance plus the heavy implication, if not obvious situation, of nepotism has many suggesting that Bronny is an outright bad player and not anywhere near NBA quality. But is that totally true? Is there anything that, if we dive into his traits as a prospect, we could find that indicates that there's more ability under the surface that he could potentially tap into and surprise some people? Today we're going to break down Bronny's game, the pros, the cons, and see if he truly has a chance to be better than expected. With all that, let's get into it. Before going into the negatives on Bronny's game, let's first discuss what he does well and what he'll need to lean on to have success at the NBA level. First things first, the number one thing that Bronny has in his game that is above average that you can't teach is his athleticism, which should be, of course, no surprise to anyone, as being the son of LeBron James should provide you with at least decent athletic genetics. And it has. Bronny is, for what it's worth, a really good athlete, both vertically and speed-wise. He showed us in a number of facets the athleticism he has in his game, and a few of his plays were really impressive. When he gets to the rim, he has great vertical ability, and he is actually quite strong, giving him the ability to finish well when he gets there. His burst on the fast break is really good, and he's got some monster chase down blocks as well. It's clear that athleticism is not the be-all, end-all trait in the NBA, as two of the top 5 players in the league, and depending on who you ask, maybe the 2 best, are decidedly unathletic people. But athleticism can make a mediocre player good, and it provides a lot of openings that wouldn't necessarily be there if the player in question wasn't athletic. And that's a trait Bronny does have, that's no question. Next up, his defense. Now, some people will be surprised to hear me say I actually think Bronny's defense is NBA quality from the get-go. The idea that he's just some amateur and will look like you or me on the court in every phase of the game is just, to me, not totally true. And his defense is to thank for that. He does a lot of things well, and if you were to classify him as a defender compared to his peers in this draft class, you'd have to consider him well above average in my opinion. The only real flaw that can be seen in him as a defender right now is the fact that he's undersized. If he was the same size as LeBron, one could accurately refer to him as an excellent defensive prospect and be totally correct in that statement. He has great hands and instincts, his positioning is really good, and of course the aforementioned athleticism helps here too. There is a place for a defensive-oriented athletic guard in the NBA. We've seen it numerous times, and there's a lot of guys who have made long careers out of doing just that, locking up opposing players. Now, almost all those guys are considered 3-and-D players, like a Pat Bev for instance, and Bronny's jump shot is something we'll get into later, but having that ability to play NBA level defense and shut down opposing players is 100% a crucial skill to have, and definitely something that could keep Bronny on the floor and give him a chance at a realistic NBA career. Finally, he shows a lot of good signs as a playmaker. He isn't a player who at this point projects to be a starting point guard level distributor, but his overall playmaking skill is pretty solid and something I think he can lean on. I think if he is ever to become a very good NBA player, he's going to be the type of guy who's a distributor first for others as opposed to himself. He should be able to knock down an open jumper if he wants to become a NBA quality player, of course, but he tends to appear to be something along the lines of a pass-first playmaker that plays quality defense. His reads are not out of this world spectacular. He's not the best playmaker in this class by any means, but he is solid, and I think that if he does get some of the other traits of his game up to par, his playmaking right now is passable for a quality role-playing guard in this league. Now, that's what he does well. Unfortunately, there are a few major things that he does not do well, and that's what we need to touch on here. Bronny is now in the NBA, so the skills that he has that are not NBA quality are going to become very much apparent as he enters the league and he tries to earn some minutes. First things first, his shooting. He is by no means a good shooter. People watch his highlight tapes and on film while seeing only his makes. He looks the part of a guy that can shoot the ball. That being said, he has never at any level been a high percentage three-point shooter. In high school, he was something like 33% from three. In college, he was even worse. When you get to the NBA level, you're looking at players who have to shoot from significantly longer than the college line, and if you don't show competency as a college three-point shooter, it's hard to say you're going to be immediately just a competent NBA level shooter. The line is longer, the defense is better, and it's just overall a more difficult thing to do to make threes in the NBA, and he hasn't shown much ability to do so. Now, what I said earlier about his defense is true. His defense is strong, but the problem comes in when you're a good defender that cannot shoot at all. It truly becomes very difficult to have a player on the floor that cannot stretch the floor and isn't exceptional at anything else on the offensive end. There are many guys in the NBA, even in the G League, that are guys that can play solid defense and hit an open three. Bronny is not that guy right now. He can play the defense, he's got the athleticism, and he's got some pretty good distribution skills, like I said, but the shooting is not there, and that's not the only thing that is not there, unfortunately for him. There are some steps that need to be made, and the number one step that needs to be made, of course, is more consistency on the shooting front. Now, the form looked good, that's true. It's just never went in for him, so it's just consistent work. Hopefully he gets it up to the point where it can start going in, but right now it is not at that level, and it needs to be for him to have a solid role in the league. The other major flaw I see in Bronny's game is the fact that he cannot really create his shot for himself. He has the athleticism, he has the burst, and he can get to the rim in the fast break, but his handle is not sharp enough to break down defenders at a consistent level. He wasn't doing it at the college level, he's not going to be doing it at the NBA level. This, alongside his generally poor shooting overall, puts him as, unfortunately, pretty much a liability on the offensive end. He doesn't have that offensive game yet. Yes, he can play defense, but offensively, there's no way he's NBA quality right now. He's just not. Can he get to that point? I think it's possible, but there's no reason to assume, other than just saying maybe his work ethic is elite, that he will be able to develop a high-level offensive skill set. I'm just not seeing that there right now. Maybe it will be over time, but right now the fact is he lacks that ability to get to the rim and lacks a quality jump shot. It puts him, unfortunately, like I said, in the liability category for an offensive player. So where does that leave Bronny as far as his long-term NBA potential goes? So let's get this out of the way. Yes, Bronny is in the league because of his dad. This is obviously not even a question. Of course, that's true. They tried for a while to hide the fact and tried to say that Bronny was trying to get into the league on his own merit, but let's be honest here, anyone other than LeBron James' son would have went back to college to try to refine their game a bit more after the season he had, and this whole gimmick of telling every team that they can't draft him because he's going to go to the Lakers, that is obviously something that no normal player that isn't LeBron's son would attempt to do, especially not one who averaged 4 points a game in college. There is no deception out there at this point. It very clearly is shown that he doesn't care about riding those coattails and getting the league, and that's fine. To continue to make it, he's going to have to prove he deserves to be there anyway. I just wish that they would stop trying to deceive us and say that it's not what they're doing, because it clearly is. Our eyes are not lying to us. We can see what's happening. That all being said, when looking at his game in a vacuum, he has some traits that make you think maybe there's some NBA potential there. I do not think he's NBA quality yet. When you look at the talent he's shown as a playmaker and as an athlete, you see some traits of someone that could eventually carve out a role in the NBA. NBA fans are known to overreact, and so you've seen a lot of people out there saying Bronny is a terrible basketball player and will never be good, and that's not, in my opinion, true or fair. It's easy to swing that pendulum too far in either way and say yes, he's absolutely an NBA player, or no, he will never be an NBA player, and neither of those things are true. He's somewhere in the middle. He's the type of player who should be in college at least one more season, should be working on refining his game, should be seen in a more prominent role at the college level, and should show notable improvement as a shooter and shot creator before getting to the NBA. But it would not shock me if a couple years down the line, if he spends a lot of time in the gym, if he shows a lot of improvement on the shot creation front and on the shooting percentage front, that he does carve out a role in the league as kind of a 3-and-D guard that can help a solid winning team. I don't think he'll ever be much more than that. I think there's too much he's got to improve on, but I do think there's a role for him in the NBA if all things go right. I just think he's making the wrong decision by going out now. It puts a lot of pressure on him, and pressure that I don't think he's ready for at this time. But there's more there than people are giving him credit for, and while he has shown not nearly enough to be on an NBA roster, he's on an NBA roster now. We have to see if he's made those steps quicker than expected. We've got the Summer League coming up. He's signed to a 4-year deal now with the Lakers, so he's got some time to show us if he truly has that NBA quality game. Based on what he showed in college, he doesn't have it yet, but that doesn't mean he can't get there. So, with all that, I conclude this video. So, the draft is obviously over, but I decided to fit one more scouting report type video in here as a prospect that a lot of people wanted to see, so here you go. Now that the draft is over, obviously we have to kind of transition the channel into less of a draft prospect scouting report channel at this time to more of a player analysis channel. So videos will likely be less frequent, but we still plan on making videos on a pretty regular basis. So if you like this type of content this channel comes out with, player analysis, team analysis, things along those lines, make sure to like and subscribe as we do have plenty of videos coming out here in the future. So keep an eye on that. But with all that, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.